The FBI now investigating an intentional explosion at Harvard's medical school. A manhunt is currently underway for two masked people last seen fleeing the campus. Molly Line is live outside Harvard's Longwood Medical Campus with the latest. Hello, Molly.
Good afternoon, Mike. You know, after this explosion occurred, which was really in the very early morning hours on Saturday, just before 3 a.m. in the morning, the responding officer to the scene, a Harvard University police officer who was coming here to look into a triggered fire alarm, did see those two people fleeing the scene. They managed to get away, but these CCTV images were captured and released by Harvard University as detectives are appealing to the public for help identifying these masked people. The Boston Fire Department, their arson unit, responded to the fourth floor of the Goldenson building. This is right in the Harvard Med campus in Boston, and determined that the explosion appeared to be intentional. So the FBI is now joined, part of a broad team working the case. The Boston Police Department swept the rest of the building. No additional devices were found.
If this is not just a one-time thing, obviously that's scary.
Nerve-wracking here for the people in this community. Thankfully, no one was hurt as a result of this incident. As I mentioned, the FBI, part of this investigation, the Harvard University Police Department, all part of a team. So that's the university, local, state, federal authorities looking for these suspects. Mike, back to you.
Let's hope they find them soon. Molly Line, thanks very much. Joining us now is Bill Daley, former FBI investigator. Bill, welcome.
Mike, good to be with you.
So what appears to be an intentional explosion at a Harvard medical building early morning Saturday. Based on your FBI experience, what are you thinking? What do you make of it?
Well, first of all, Mike, it's interesting that they are calling it an intentional explosion. No one's mentioned the word bomb yet. So I guess as the investigation continues, they'll determine exactly what was behind this. It is interesting, Mike, is that this building, the Goldenson building, is listed on the Harvard website as being involved in neurobiology research, imaging, so quite sophisticated equipment, a lot of research going on. You know, we don't know at this point whether or not something that was in maybe perhaps one of the laboratories was used to kind of trigger this explosion, as opposed to something being brought in. But it is right now not an FBI investigation per se. They're supporting the Harvard police and then certainly the Boston police and the state police. But at this point, it seems to be focused on what happened in and around that laboratory with those two people fleeing in the early morning hours of Saturday.
Two people wearing masks spotted on camera leaving the scene. Do you think there's enough there to give them some solid leads to work on?
Well, I think so, Mike. And in fact, you know, my FBI experience early in my career, I was part of the special photography unit, laboratory division of the FBI, where we investigated bombings. I was at several sites. I think, you know, coupled with what they find on scene, as well as these images, which need to go kind of broader out. So the Harvard police are going to have jurisdiction in and around the Harvard campus, and those buildings are associated with Harvard. But they're going to need to kind of go out further and look at all the CCTV coverage in and around the area and the public spaces, in even some private spaces. They get some video to see if these people pulled down their mask, what the timeline was, where they were, and if at some point they revealed themselves ahead of time. Again, these are people of interest. We don't know whether or not they're the ones who actually caused it, but certainly the fact that they were there in the early morning hours right after the bombing, or the explosion, seems to suggest that they are certainly people we need to speak to.
Just after 2:45 a.m. on a weekend, when the building is presumably empty, what does that tell you?
Well, you know, in the private sector, I've worked on several investigations involving kind of research facilities, and sometimes I'm not kind of trying to get too over my skis with this one and ahead of myself, but you know, sometimes the area of research, medical research, can be quite contentious, can be quite challenging, and also competitive. We just don't know whether or not there was something like that behind this. Was it just purely kind of some type of accident that went off with the machinery, or was it something that was intentional? I'd probably suggest to you, Mike, is that whoever these people were, they knew where to go, apparently, and we'd have to say what specifically was targeted and what people in and around that facility, in and around that perhaps laboratory, either worked there in the past, currently work there, have some association or some interest in perhaps seeing something go sideways on perhaps a research investigation.
Then there's the Halloween terror plot in Michigan, thwarted by the FBI. 2 arrests made, 3 others questioned. What are your key takeaways of this potential incident?
Well, from a broader perspective, I have to say is that the new FBI under Director Patel and Assistant Director Dan Bongino have been quite tenacious in all of these investigations, have been out there and very, I think, forthcoming and kind of transparency with regard to what they can tell the public what they're involved in. I think the investigation goes to show you in Michigan, for example, is that they were honest, that they were monitoring, that they were seeing what chatter was out there, what people were communicating and talking about, perhaps an incident in and around Halloween, and they reacted very, very swiftly to that. You know, that really comes on the heels, Mike, of also just in this past week, a major investigation involving organized crime and the nexus of the NBA and some gambling schemes, which allegedly were carried out. So quite a busy time for the Bureau, but I'm glad to see they're stepping up, they're involved, and they're doing all that they can to support, both in this case in Harvard, the Harvard police, local and state authorities, as well as the other investigations we just talked to, which they own.
Bill, we're nearly out of time, but we're hearing in this Michigan case, these people were age 16 to their 20s reportedly. Does that concern you?
Well, I'm very much concerned as to we need to put aside sometimes about age, because as we know from people who are victims of street crimes and other heinous crimes that occur, is that age, unfortunately, in this day and age has no restrictions. So the fact that they were younger doesn't mean that it couldn't, that some plan they had would have been less lethal. I'd like to really know what that nexus might be to any other organized groups or people who may be looking to support them, if in fact that is the case. Because that would go to show you is that our young people can be very susceptible to outside influences, and whether, and I don't know all the details on the case, they haven't revealed them yet, whether there was any type of encouragement, radicalization, anything else that took place. It's very, very important to know, because it goes to show you then that our young people are very susceptible to what they see online and what they hear from people telling them, and may look to carry out horrible acts, because they're encouraged to do so.
Bill Daley, always fascinating. Thanks for your analysis today.
Great to talk to you, Mike.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.